331 BC. The Persian Empire is the largest political entity on Earth, stretching from the Nile to the mountains of Afghanistan. For over 2 centuries, it has crushed rebellion, survived assassinations, and fended off invasions. Entire civilizations exist just to pay tribute to the great king. Today, that empire is fighting for its life. Darius III stands at the center of his battle line at Gaugamela. He knows exactly who is across the field, a 25-year-old Macedonian king who has spent the last 3 years doing the impossible. Granicus, Issus, Egypt, every Persian trap has failed. But Gaugamela is supposed to be different. Alexander is deep in enemy territory, vastly outnumbered, and one tactical mistake away from total ruin. Darius is so confident that he has spent days physically reshaping the landscape, leveling hills and clearing obstacles to create a flat, deadly runway for his thousands of horsemen and scythed chariots. Alexander will have to fight on ground designed for his own destruction. Historically, this battle changed the course of human civilization, but we are changing one variable. Parked behind the Macedonian lines is a single M1 Abrams main battle tank. So what will happen? Will it 10x Alex's conquering speed, or will it just run out of fuel mid-battle? Well, the answer is a bit more complex than you think. You see, the tank weighs 68 tons, heavier than 100 war chariots or a fully assembled siege tower. Its composite armor was forged to withstand anti-tank missiles that won't be invented for another 20 centuries. Its thermal sights can cut through pitch-black nights, thick smoke, and desert dust, while its 120mm smoothbore cannon can accurately engage a target over a mile away. Persian scouts report a massive, angular object near the Macedonian rear. The theories are wild: a strange ceremonial monument, a metal building. While the Persians are busy yapping, they hear a loud sound. The AGT 1500 roars to life with 1500 horsepower. To a modern soldier, it's just a loud engine. To the ancient world, it feels like Cerberus is unleashed. Persian warhorses panic instantly, throwing their handlers and breaking formations before a single spear is thrown. And then, the metal building begins to roll forward. For a few heartbeats, the entire ancient world pauses. Tens of thousands of men stare at the metal beast. Then, Alexander gives the order. The target isn't the frontline infantry or the scythed chariots. Nah, that'd be too boring for Alex. The target is Darius. The Great King sits over a mile away, surrounded by royal security. Inside the steel hull, the gunner locks onto the target. Nobody sees the projectile. One moment, the royal horses stand. The next, they are simply gone. The imperial chariot collapses into a cloud of splinters and red mist. Neither side understands what just happened. Even Alex here had no idea, but everyone understands the result. The King of Kings is suddenly a pedestrian in the middle of a war zone. Persian immortals rush to shield Darius, forming a wall of bronze and cloth. Through the rising dust, Macedonian scouts see a replacement horse and a tiny elite escort fleeing east. Darius is trying to escape. Well, cannot change history, I guess. The gunner reacquires the target. The second shot clears the muzzle, but this time no one is looking at the tank. Every eye is focused on the fleeing dust cloud of the Persian High Command. Traveling at nearly a mile per second, the kinetic sabot round arrives before the sound of the blast can even cross the valley. The replacement horse, Darius, and his entire royal escort disappear in an explosive eruption of shattered rock and steel. The King of Kings is dead. Within hours, the Persian Empire begins to break apart. In the immediate aftermath, a huge shockwave ripples through the ancient world. For Greeks, Macedonians, and conquered Persians alike, it felt like it was divine intervention. Priests and poets quickly declare Alexander a living god, the true son of Zeus Ammon. His weapon is said to be a thunderbolt, forged by the heavens to cleanse the earth. Now, because Alex is said to be a god, and he literally has a tank, the Persian Empire collapses. Persia was run by satraps. They were powerful regional governors who ruled their provinces like minor kings. They had their own treasuries and local armies, but they did not want to go to war against a god. One by one, the Western satraps surrender without drawing a sword. Cities open their gates before a single siege engine is built. Wealthy governors defect overnight, offering their crowns to Alexander out of sheer terror. I mean, the myth of the divine thunder chariot is far more useful than the machine itself. But the crew knows the terrifying truth. Their god machine is dying. Every mile consumes precious fuel. Every startup wears down custom components that even their best blacksmith cannot make. They may be winning the war, but much like Michael Jackson, they are losing the fight against aging. Now, Western province satraps may think that Alex is a god and all, but Eastern satraps are not going to buy that, so they decide to actually engage in a battle. Yup, it goes exactly like you think. The tank's thermal optics spot incoming cavalry ambushes hours before Macedonian scouts sense trouble. Its stabilized fire control allows it to fire accurately while moving at a full sprint. Eventually, surviving Persian commanders stop trying to figure out how to pierce its armor. The question becomes, how do we stop this metal beast from fighting? Slowly, the remaining Eastern satraps analyze the battle reports. They realize the beast never moves alone. It needs Macedonian infantry to protect its flanks. They notice it spends hours completely still while men tinker with its interior. Most importantly, they understand it can only destroy what it can see. The Persians devise a new plan. If they cannot defeat the tank, they can definitely stop it. They burn bridges, trigger massive rock slides, and block narrow paths. Now, the Abrams can handle tough terrain, but every detour consumes valuable fuel. Every difficult mountain pass strains the suspension. The machine that accelerated Alexander's conquest is now dictating his route, forcing him into predictable, bottlenecked detours. This is exactly what the satraps wanted. They pool their resources, combine their remaining regional armies, and form a desperate coalition. They managed to assemble 30,000 infantry and 8,000 cavalry, the largest force in human history gathered to destroy a single vehicle. They decide to ambush Alex and his tank in a dry, dusty valley flanked by steep ridges. The battle begins as expected. The Abrams advances, its high explosive shells tearing massive gaps through the Persian lines. Entire ranks disappear in fire, but the satraps have prepared for this. Fires are ignited along the ridges, filling the valley with thick smoke and ash. Inside the turret, the commander's independent thermal viewer goes chaotic. The screens light up with blinding white flares from the brush fires, hot dust, and stampeding horses. Target prioritization becomes impossible. Then comes the human wave. The first lines are cut down by machine gun fire, but the Persians keep coming, sprinting through the blinding smoke. Dozens, then hundreds of soldiers scramble onto the hull. They smash axes against the external glass ports, jam iron spears into the turret ring, and drape thick, muddy animal hides over the optical lenses. Inside the steel capsule, the world becomes a deafening drumbeat of metal striking metal. The armor holds, but the crew is suddenly blind. A heavy axe strike finally cracks the primary thermal housing, and the screen goes black. Seeing the beast overwhelmed, Alexander charges with his companion cavalry to break the siege around the tank. A chaotic, bloody melee erupts directly over the vehicle's hull. Realizing they will be overrun if they stay blind, the tank commander, Commander Miller, unlatches his hatch and pushes himself up into the open air to guide the driver. An arrow pierces his shoulder. He collapses back into the turret, bleeding heavily, but he gives the coordinates. The Abrams breaks free, and Alexander's cavalry completely shatters the Persian coalition. By sunset, the last organized Persian army is gone. But as the crew assesses the damage, reality sets in. The main thermals are destroyed, and external sensors are mangled, but the tank is built for much worse. Sure, it cannot see in night, now that its thermal viewer is gone, but the driver can still see outside the tank, and use it to shoot at enemies, due to Gunner's auxiliary sight. The blind battle changes Alexander. The tank is no longer just a powerful omen, it has become a weakness. The satraps may not have defeated Alex, but his morale definitely took a hit. Alexander reacts with paranoia. He sets up a large permanent guard around the vehicle. Soon, some of the best tactical minds in the Macedonian army find themselves focused on planning road networks and scouting river crossings. Entire campaigns are now controlled by the needs of a machine. Behind closed doors, resentment builds. The generals see the tank's crew, who now have more direct access to Alexander than his childhood friends. Some grumble that Macedonia conquered Persia. Others quietly wonder if a machine defeated Persia, yet the conquest continues. I mean, it's Alex, whom we are talking about here, Alexander heads east toward India, but as they march, the crew faces a countdown that nobody else can see. The fuel gauges are almost empty. Commander Miller watches the needles drop lower each month. For the first time since arriving in 331 BC, he begins to calculate how much farther the tank can go before it stops. The answer becomes worse every week. Desperate, the crew takes a considerable risk. Across the Persian heartland, natural petroleum seeps bubble up from the earth. The locals call it naphtha. The AGT 1500 is a multi-fuel turbine. In theory, it should work. The crew orders laborers to gather barrels of the crude black liquid. For a while, it works. The engine starts. The tracks move. The conquest continues. But every mile comes with a price. The crude oil is thick, with sulfur, tar, and carbon. Black smoke pours from the exhaust. Fuel filters clog. The machine is running, but it is in no better shape than my '03 Corolla. And eventually, the price has to be paid. The climax arrives at the Hydaspes River. King Porus waits on the opposite bank with a wall of war elephants. Alexander turns toward the tank. The driver reaches for the ignition switch. And nothing happens. Inside the turret, nobody speaks. The starter motor whines, then stops. Silence. Outside, thousands of Macedonians stare across the river. 200 elephants wait in the distance. Alexander looks at the crew. No one meets his eyes. The driver tries again. The compressor begins to spool. For a moment, it seems alive. Then the engine coughed. Silence. Commander Miller closes his eyes. The tank had been their home for years. Their protection, their last remnant of a world that no longer existed. Now it was dying before them. Outside, the generals exchange glances. Some look scared, others look relieved. The driver reaches for the ignition switch one last time. The turbine coughs. A cloud of thick black smoke erupts from the exhaust, and then the roar comes. Uneven, but alive. The Macedonian lines burst into cheers. The elephants panic. Porus is defeated, and Alexander claims another victory. But nobody inside the tank celebrates. They understand what others do not. The machine is finished. Within weeks, the engine seizes completely. The ignition clicks, but the turbine never turns. The Abrams is dead. To Alexander and his engineers, the failure is baffling. The armor is intact. The cannon is unharmed. Nothing seems broken. They cannot grasp sulfur corrosion, carbon fouling, or tiny wear. To them, the explanation is clear. The spirit of the chariot has left the earth. Alexander refuses to give up on it. Thousands of men, oxen, and laborers are called together. The 68-ton hull is dragged westward across the empire. What had once been the fastest weapon on Earth becomes the slowest object in Alexander's army. Roads collapse beneath it. Bridges must be rebuilt for it. The tank no longer serves the empire. The empire serves the tank. Eventually, the machine reaches Babylon. There, Alexander orders a fortified vault built around it. The crew moves into the vault as well. Soon after, Alexander dies, and the empire starts to fall apart. The successor wars break out almost immediately. Ptolemy, Seleucus, Antigonus all fight to possess the vault. Not because they think the machine can be revived, but because they are haunted by what it represented. Decades pass. The youngest crewman becomes an old man. Babylon changes rulers, then changes rulers again. The tank never moves. Kings cross deserts just to stand before the iron gates of the vault. Some seek answers, others seek legitimacy, but most leave disappointed. The machine remains silent. For generations, scholars and engineers study it. Blacksmiths scratch at the armor. Philosophers debate its purpose. Inventors spend their entire lives trying to match parts of what they see. They don't succeed. But they don't need to understand how it worked. They just needed to know what it did. This was something I came up with last night. And honestly, I kind of liked how it played out. I tried to keep the military dynamics as historically accurate as possible, but if I missed a tactical detail, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy videos like this, don't forget to subscribe.